Okay, welcome back. We are on the very last part of this unit, and decided to put this in because I thought this was interesting. Like it says, this is bonus info, not in the book. But I don't know why they don't talk about the senses. It's part of the body, and gosh, they're quite fascinating when you think about it. So I'm just going to give you some information. Like I said, this is just bonus stuff to help you because sometimes it's cool to know these things. So, oh my God, those look so good. I'm getting really hungry. It's almost lunchtime when I'm recording this. So, we have to be able to respond to our environment. There's kind of stimuli coming at us all over the place. Sometimes we have to respond to these stimuli to avoid danger, find resources, or just to find mates. If you remember from 1408, most animals out in the wild, they've only think about three things. I was like, if they encounter something they don't know, is it going to eat me? Can I eat it? Or can I mate with it? So those are the big three things in nature that you've got to navigate, and your senses help you do that. Now, depending on your sense organ, it's going to be specialized for a particular type of scent. So you're going to have your eyes respond to light, your ears respond to sound, your skin and all that stuff responds to pressure. You have chemicals that you respond to between your sense and your taste. And then the brain is the one that's going to go through and take all these sensory information that it's gathering, and it's going to create these memories that make sense of the world. So every time you smell chocolate chip cookies and it tasted so good. They're not chocolate chip, it's like peanut butter with that little um, Hershey's Kiss on it. Those are good. You smell that coming, and then you just remember you get a happy feeling. So, that leads to a good memory. Now, one thing that a few terms I wanted to introduce was integration. So this is when you take all those signals and bring it up together to form that kind of memory that you have with it. And one thing with senses, you can get adapted to them. So, you keep having exposure to a certain thing and you kind of lose that initial thing to it. Just like when you walk into a room right away, or like going to Bath and Body Works, where you get overloaded with scents right when you walk in. At first it's like boom, like in your face, so much going on. But, after a little bit, you kind of get used to it. You got adapted to it. So that kind of things do happen with our sensory things. Now, we use a lot of chemoreceptors to help detect these chemicals in the environment. You have them in various parts of your body, your nose, your mouth, and insects have them on their antenna, flatworms, because that's how they respond, just how they're made, they have them on their skin. So I'm just going to focus on a few key senses. I'm not going to go into too much detail on them. I just thought it'd be interesting to know this kind of stuff. So first off, taste. There's been people that study like the mapping of the mouth and your taste buds. Now, on your taste buds, on your tongue, you're going to have receptor cells, and there's just 5 tastes. You've heard of bitter, sour, salty, sweet, and then that last one you're probably not as familiar with is umami, and it's mostly a savory one, and you common with cheese and meats and all the other stuff. But people have actually gone through and actually mapped where on your tongue you can taste a different taste. There are some labs where you can do where you can actually see that people have different responses. Some people can't taste bitter. It's quite interesting to watch. We've done a lab where you have this little strip of paper and you put it on your tongue and it's extremely bitter, and some people it just grosses them out. Other people are just like licking it and they can't taste it at all. It's kind of interesting. Now, depending on the type of food, it can stimulate multiple taste bud categories. There are some great dishes out there. Don't be afraid to eat. Experience good food. Life is too short. Break out of the ramen noodle thing every once in a while and go have some good food. There's good stuff out there. Now, what your brain's going to do is you're going to form these sensations and get a perception. Taste kind of amazes me. I don't know why we have what we like and we don't like. I hate salad. Just any salad in general, except for maybe fruit salad. For me, it's just so gross. If there's that one little shred of lettuce like on my hamburger, it can ruin the whole bite. It just like makes me cringe. And why do we like what we like? It's kind of interesting because kids can be. I was a picky eater as a kid, I'll admit it, and I've expanded my palate some, but there's certain things I refuse to eat, and it's just weird how we are the way we are. Now, you've seen these tongue maps before, and they do have flaws because there's it's just a hypothesis of what we think the way it is. There was a researcher at UTSA right when I was leaving that was actually studying this kind of stuff, and I sat through one of her talks, and it was really fascinating how they're going through and studying this. So your next one is smell, and some of these people have a acute sense of smell. Other people just can't smell anything. They're obviously nose blind to stuff. So within your interior surface of your nose, you have the olfactory receptors. It's in this up part right here. Now, there are tons of molecules floating in the air, and it's going to stimulate those receptors inside your nose. Now your brain's going to sort these molecules and kind of use that library of sense that it has and say, okay, that is this right here. And it's all from prior knowledge. It's kind of interesting how we go through that. Most of the time you're going to see that taste and smell are going to work together. And certain things you don't taste, but you kind of associate those two things together. It's like with the smell of cookies, and you smell cookies, but you don't know what it's going to taste like until you try it. So then you try it, next thing you know, that's a good thing. So you smell it, and the next thing you know, you're salivating because you know that's a tasty treat coming. Now, it could be bad things too. You smell certain things, and it's kind of, that as a threat. I put smoke as an example right here. So you'll see that scents are actually really closely tied to enhanced memory, especially. It's like that smell of freshly cut grass might give you a memory of back when you were a kid. It's kind of fascinating how a smell can do that kind of thing. Now, hearing and balance, these are actually kind of fun. So within your ear, remember you have those three smallest bones right there. But we also have the organs for sound input and balance. And balance is super important. When I was a kid, I had to have the tubes put in my ears. They left holes in my eardrums. They fixed one of them, and I remember when I was leaving the ear place, I just totally lost balance and passed out. And when you go through amusement park rides where you get turned upside down and all over the place, it's because you're really screwing up with this balance center. So we do have mechanoreceptors, which are your hair cells within your ear, and they sense mechanical stimulation, so sound waves and movement. Now, what's interesting is throughout them, when we were talking about the different type of animals, most of the invertebrates cannot hear. They just respond to like vibrations and stuff. When we got to the chordates, the upper animals, that's when they start having these processing organs. For us, we have our tympanic membrane, which is our eardrum, and it's just a stretch membrane across the opening of the ear. As I mentioned, one of mine has a hole in it, the other one has been repaired. I'm pretty sure I did a lot more damage to it because I was a percussionist in college, and I'm pretty sure all those years of being on the drum line and marching band did not help at all. So this is a video, I think it's the hearing test one, where you can actually go through and test your hearing on it. It might be the next slide, I'm not quite sure. But what's going to happen is you have the sound waves, they're going to cause your tympanic membrane to vibrate. Boom, 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 boom. Depending on the frequency, the wave will determine the peak and the height and all the other stuff. When that happens, it's going to cause the little bones in your ear to go through and move. And then that's going to go through into what is a spiral shaped structure called your cochlea. Now, inside your cochlea, you're going to have, there's fluid, and these ripples are going to go through, and it's going to move the little hair cells that you have in there. And depending on the frequency of the wave will determine what hair cells are going to be triggered, and the pressure and everything's going to be associated with it. Okay. Yes, go back one. So this is going to go through and explain that in a lot more detail than what I did. I'm just going to kind of introduce it to you. This is the pitch video. So this is a hearing test you can do on your own. I remember I had to do these so many times as a kid because I was that kid that could not hear. That's when they put the tubes in the ear. I could read and everything in kindergarten, but I couldn't talk. It's kind of fascinating. So the pitch is just the wavelength of the sound. The shorter waves are going to be shorter waves, and the higher pitch are going to have the higher though. Now, volume is just by the strength of the sound waves. You can tell there's certain problems that can be associated with hearing. Hearing loss is a horrible, it's not horrible, it's something we learn to deal with and all the other stuff, but you all know people that um, you can yell at them, and some of them probably don't realize how loud they are talking because they are going through hearing loss and stuff, and it seems like they're yelling all the time. But we've made so many advances when it comes to fixing hearing loss, and how do we adapt to it? It's really quite fascinating. And then there's people that are just plain tone deaf, and these are the best ones that you let them go watch when they do karaoke. All right, so balance. This is kind of associated with your hearing, but you have two senses of balance. You have your rotational one, so this is when you're just moving the angular movement of your head. You have the canals and part of your ear that are going to be going through, and they kind of help you and get you all set up and on the right track. Now, vertigo is association when you have problems with rotational balance. Now, this is when you get dizzy and the fluid keeps moving after your head stops. So, kind of like think about like when you go through like I just mentioned, the roller coaster, and you just keep going up and down and all over the place. You're kind of dizzy like right when you walk off, but vertigo, it just doesn't stop. Now, gravitational is orientation relative to gravity. So this is when really on the roller coasters when you're like going up and down and all over the place, not just turning and spinning. So you'll have these little granules inside your eardrum that are causing the hairs to bend. And depending on, where they're bending will determine what's up, right side up or upside down. So when you kind of don't have the right ones triggered, you kind of lose your orientation. And this is a little balance test that you can go and do. If we were face-to-face, we would have done it. It kind of tests how you're on one foot versus the other foot. You don't realize it, but you do have a dominant foot when it comes to balance. And some people are really good at it. Some people are just horrible. It's kind of fun to watch. Now, a little bit about vision. You saw as we went through the different kingdoms, we started getting the early eye spots, and then eyes got more and more complex as we got through. Now, within your eyes, you have photoreceptors, which respond to light. Now, there were different types of eyes that we saw. First off were these compound eyes, and these have many individual units, and each of them is its own lens, and they kind of are combined to form like a crude image. And so you would think with the lenses you would get like a really refined one, but it's actually a poor definition, and you're going to find this especially in bugs and stuff. Now, the camera lens is a single focus, and this is where we take all the receptors on through this one single lens. And you're going to see this found in chordates, and also some of the mollusks were the first ones where we started to see these camera-like lenses show up. So just looking at the eye a little bit, what's really great about us is we have the two eyes, and allows for that binocular vision, and we can actually perceive depth a lot more than, versus if our eyes were on the side and all the other stuff. Now, what your eye is going to do is you have your lens and the pupil and everything. So light's going to enter through the cornea and the lens, boom, 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 and then it's going to go through the iris. So the iris is that circular muscle that contracts to control how much light enters. So it's going to give the eye its color too. And then the pupil is the center, and that lets the light in. So, you go outside and you see everything contract because it's too much of an input. When it's dark, you see everything kind of release. Now, in the back, you're going to have receptors in the back of your eyes, which are your rods and your cones. And then your brain's going to go through and take all these images that it gets from the receptors and input them to form an image. As I mentioned, you have those receptors in the back of your eyes, depending on, we have both rods and cones, but then there have been some problems where people have some problems with the cones or the rods. Now, the rods are going to be very sensitive to light, and they contribute to your night vision. That's why they tell you to eat all those carrots when you're young to help with your vision. Your cones are going to be sensitive to wavelength, and they're going to help you perceive color. There are different versions of your cones. You have red, blue, and green versions, and it's a combination of all of these to help us see the colors. So you've probably seen these kind of tests right here where see if you can see the actual number right here. And there are people that are colorblind, and there's nothing wrong. You get through life just fine. My brother-in-law's colorblind, and we love to give him a hard time with it. We're playing dominoes, and we'll call out the color instead of the number. But it is what it is. And I do find those glasses that they make for people that are colorblind and they can actually see the world in color is quite fascinating. So let's see what's next. Oh, that was it. So once again, here are some review videos. I know this was just bonus information. If you watched it, you learned something new, but I thought it was weird the book didn't put anything about it. And I just wanted to mention just a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it with information. And then there are the images.